Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. This is CBC Windsor News. Thanks for watching. Tonight, another week of stalemate begins between LG Stellantis and the government. Plus, fires in Memorial Park have neighbors on edge. Someone's been chopping down trees to make a bonfire. Dollars to support some people with disabilities at Windsor Airport. We'll tell you about the new investment. And cyclists want better bike lanes and action from the city. Today marks the beginning of the third week of construction being paused at part of the Nexstar electric vehicle battery plant. Stellantis and LG are at odds with the federal government over incentives for the plant. Windsor's mayor is making a plea to the feds to finalize a deal so that construction can get back up and running. The CBC's TJ Deer joins us live now from City Hall, where council is in session. TJ, what is the mayor doing about this?
Well, Mayor Drew Dilkens said he would bring forward a notice of motion to Windsor City Council at today's meeting. He said the motion is symbolic and that it would send a clear message to Ottawa to get a deal done.
My motion will unite our voices to send a clear message to the federal government and that to all stakeholders involved, get this project done.
Fed up with the impasse between the federal government and Stellantis and LG Energy Solutions, Windsor Mayor Drew Dilkens and other stakeholders are asking Ottawa to step up and come to an agreement.
We need the federal government to finalize the agreement. We need them to end the uncertainty and stalemate that is threatening future economic developments in the city of Windsor, in Ontario, and frankly, across our nation.
Construction on the battery plant was paused more than 2 weeks ago. That happened after Ottawa announced their $13 billion deal with Volkswagen to help the German automaker build an EV battery plant of their own in St. Thomas. That's compared to the $500 million in government money Stellantis and LG received for the Windsor plant. The Volkswagen deal came after the Biden administration introduced the Inflation Reduction Act, which is designed to entice companies to build clean energy products in the U.S. An industry expert says Canada can't compete with the U.S. because of the IRA.
There's 193 countries at the UN, and the total GDP, and that's this year, is $100 trillion. One country, called the USA, is responsible for $25 trillion. Canada is a small player, an important player, yes, but with the idea that we can go head-to-head, toe-to-toe, and match the US is just, it's just preposterous.
But Dilkens and a local union president both said the IRA will not last.
The Democrats aren't happy with it. The Republicans aren't happy with it. And we'll see what happens across the river as we go into this election to where it goes.
Some industry experts say that the module facility could be moved to Michigan, which rustled some feathers in Ottawa.
So will this government ensure that those jobs don't end up going to the U.S. and instead we keep those jobs here in Canada and do everything possible to make this deal go forward? While the Conservatives want this deal to not go forward, we want it to go forward. You're here.
Thank you. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the answer absolutely is yes. We will ensure the deal goes forward. We will ensure the jobs will stay in Canada. That's why we have a $120 billion clean economy plan.
Local Liberal MP Eric Kazmierczak repeated today that he's confident the deal will be signed and that construction will resume in Windsor. But Dilkens repeated his plan to pressure Ottawa to follow words with action.
They're the only ones that have the capacity to follow through on the commitment that they made, which is to match the IRA incentives with our largest employer, and we're going to hold their feet to the fire.
Now, in the last few hours, Unifor put out a statement saying the impasse is a cause for concern. NDP MP Brian Massey put out a statement of his own saying that the federal government's actions to risk the investment, jobs, and the local resources amounts to, quote, political malpractice. And that's where we stand right now. Still no deal finalized between the federal government, Stellantis, and LG, and no word on when and if a deal will be done. Kat?
Thanks for this, TJ. That's CBC's TJ Deer live from City Hall tonight. Neighbors near Optimist Memorial Park say they're concerned about fires in the forested area. It first happened last fall, and now someone is starting fires in the wooded park once again. Dale Molnar has more.
On this fallen tree, you can tell that it's been set on fire. There's a lot of charring going on down there.
Ward 4 Councillor Mark McKenzie points to burnt branches and trees that have been piled in Optimist Memorial Park.
And then obviously there's down branches in here as well. Some of these have fallen naturally, but you can also see some fresh cuts here. And these are the things, this guy's coming with a saw.
Mackenzie says residents are concerned the person or people responsible for this will set fires that will get out of control.
That's the fear, right? Is that if this guy starts a fire, this whole naturalized area is going to go up in flames. We have talked about doing a controlled burn. Unfortunately, it's too late for that. The warm weather kind of creeped up on us pretty quickly this year, and then started to cool down. But it's just a little too late right now.
A group of about 12 people have started a fire watch group. Even though a parks official says the fire department says there haven't been any fires this year, the leader of the fire watch group says there was a fire in the woods just 2 weekends ago. He says they have identified at least one person, but when police are called, he says they can't seem to do anything.
We gave them tools that they had used. There was fingerprints on them, video of the person, pictures, audio saying he was going to come back. All that was submitted to the police department, and yet he's still coming back.
He's worried fires could spread to neighboring homes. CBC News has reached out to Windsor Police for comment, but we haven't heard back. An administrator with the Parks Department says police have been notified. He says Parks staff have also been dismantling the piles of branches and are stepping up patrols as well. He says they are also considering other security measures. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
2 Windsor police officers are being commended for quick action at a children's baseball game. Constables Talia Natashak and Chris Lozon were off duty watching their children play at a ball field in LaSalle on Friday. That's when Windsor police say the 2 noticed a man holding a 6-inch knife in the air. Police say the man also pulled an airsoft gun from his waistband and fired it at a nearby backyard. One of the officers detained the man until LaSalle police arrived. No word on charges or a possible motive for the suspect. Windsor Airport will soon be easier to navigate for some people with disabilities. They plan on buying software so people with hearing troubles can find their flights.
One of the projects that we're looking at currently is upgrading our technology and our flight data information system to link with our paging system that will allow speech to text conversion to eliminate those barriers for individuals with hearing disabilities.
The airport is one of several organizations receiving a $1.9 million from the federal government to make their buildings more accessible. Other planned projects include adding a wheelchair lift at the County of Essex building and automatic doors at the University of Windsor. The provincial NDP and the Ontario Autism Coalition say too many kids with special needs are being excluded from school. Students may be told they can't stay because of behavioral issues or a lack of support for them. As Lorenda Redekop explains, advocates are calling for clearer guidelines.
Parents of children with autism have long been fighting for more support. Today, they raised another concern: exclusions from school. Parent Steve Legault says his son Elliot, now in grade 12, hurt another student and was excluded from April of last year until the end of the school year.
Elliot was bored and understimulated. This brought about more challenging behaviors we had to deal with at home, leaving us exhausted.
That's an extreme case. The NDP and the Ontario Autism Coalition say there are many other exclusions happening, and that so-called soft exclusions, such as when a student is sent home partway through the day or told to voluntarily stay home, aren't tracked.
Every effort should be made to get the kid back into school as quickly as possible. And what's happening more often is that schools are managing their staffing challenges off the backs of children with disabilities.
One NDP MPP did an informal online survey of parents, finding that just in the past 2 weeks, 78 children missed a total of more than 550 hours of school due to exclusions.
There needs to be some rules and parameters. So right now, there's literally no rules about how long these exclusions can be.
She compares that to suspensions that can last for a maximum of 20 days. The spokesperson for the education minister says exclusions are tracked, though didn't respond to whether that includes soft exclusions.
Students, staff, and parents can see with their own eyes that the supports are not there in our schools for our children when they need them.
The minister responded with numbers.
There are 3,000 more education assistants hired by our government under our Premier's leadership. We too want to make sure that there's value for those investments.
The Ontario Autism Coalition recognizes exclusions are sometimes unavoidable.
If you've got safety issues in a classroom, if somebody is hurt, if a plan needs to be put in place for a child, then absolutely.
But she says more educational assistance and more specialized training would mean they happen less frequently. Lorenda Redicomp, CBC News, Toronto.
The federal government is enhancing supports for Indigenous victims and survivors of crime. Minister of Justice David Lametti says Ottawa will spend more than $95 million over 5 years and another $20 million annually on an ongoing basis. He says the new funding will help bring culturally safe supports to remote areas.
We need for people to be able to have increased safety and protection, improve access to justice, respect rights, and support healing from the aftermath of harm and victimization. And the new ways should be Indigenous-led, sustainable, and responsive. Indigenous agencies and organizations know what they need from the justice system and what they need to assist victims in their healing journey. So this simply is the best way forward in supporting First Nations, Inuit, and Métis victims and survivors of crime. To all victims and survivors, you deserve to know that these important programs will be there for as long as you need them.
Let's turn to the East Coast now, where a wildfire near Halifax is still burning out of control. Hundreds of firefighters are battling the flames, but numerous homes and buildings have already been destroyed. The CBC's Blair Rhodes has the latest.
The fire appeared to hopscotch through the homes in Westwood, scorching some, leaving some unscathed, and burning others right down to the foundation. In some cases, the fire came right up to a property line, where firefighters were able to beat it back.
Our first arriving crews did discover a very large and fast-moving fire going through that subdivision, and in fact traveled so significantly that we quickly escalated through second, third, fourth, and fifth alarms, which is the first use of a fifth alarm that many of us can remember in this community.
Those people who were forced to flee their homes last night have been told to expect to remain out of them for days. Meldrum says it will take at least that long for firefighters to identify which homes survived and which were burned to the ground.
We do know for sure that a number of structures are damaged and some are completely lost. And it is a concern, and it will be a priority to kind of inform people as we can get that information. But right now, with the intensity of these fires, the resources are completely focused on tamping them back, but also the safety of our firefighters is the number one priority.
When pressed, Premier Houston said there are dozens of structures that have been destroyed.
We can only imagine the fear that you're feeling, the uncertainty you're feeling about when you will be able to return to your home, what you may be returning to, and we know that the fear must be just completely unimaginable.
The evacuation order for the Tantalon area now includes more than 16,000 people. They're being urged to register with the municipal 311 information number so that officials can keep track of who's out of their homes. Blair Rhodes, CBC News, Halifax.
Crews in New Brunswick are also fighting forest fires. The mayor of St. Andrews provided an update earlier today.
Currently, right now, we are facing an active and ongoing situation with a forest fire. Although progress is being made, it's important to note that at this particular time, the fire is still not controlled.
400 homes have now been evacuated, and at least one home has been destroyed. The fire has eaten about 250 hectares of forest. It began yesterday after an all-terrain vehicle burst into flames. Turning to international news now, Russia launched a rare daylight attack on Kyiv today. At least one civilian was hurt as debris fell from the sky. Russia has attacked the Ukrainian capital for 15 nights this week. Ukraine says its air defenses are stopping the missiles from hitting their targets. Meanwhile, an aide to Ukraine's president tweeted today about a possible post-war settlement. He said a demilitarized zone of at least 100 kilometers should be established inside Russia along the border with Ukraine. The European Union's top diplomat said he believes Russia will only be willing to negotiate if it wins the war. Treaty talks involving 50 countries, including Canada, began today in Paris. It is the second round of discussions with the goal of reducing pollution caused by plastics.
We gathered here in Paris because the linear plastic economy is gushing pollution galore, choking our ecosystems, warming the climate, damaging our health.
The United Nations hopes the countries will agree to a binding treaty to be implemented by 2024. It has a plan to cut plastic waste by 80% by 2040. Some environmental groups criticize the plan for focusing on waste management. They say that's a concession to the global plastics and petrochemicals industries. The groups are demanding that the production of plastic be cut. There are renewed calls to improve Windsor's roads to make them better for cyclists, from improved quality to better connections around town. CBC's TJ Deer hit the streets to chat with riders about what they want to see.
Well, a lot of roads don't have bike lanes, right? So a lot of times I end up riding on the sidewalk, which ends up, I get in the way of pedestrians, which, I don't like doing. I don't like bothering pedestrians. And then if I go on the road, I get honked at because a car's there's no room for me to ride my bike, right?
Along Riverside, there's a section there you can drive along this side for a certain length, but then there's a section where there's no little road lane or nothing else, and you got to drive along there, and the road's really bad. There's like a few miles, and it's pretty dangerous. I'm nervous like hell when I go down there.
As a critic, I do like to criticize our bike paths. They're not consistent. Many times you go for a couple of miles, you got a good bike path, and all of a sudden it ends, and you have to try to change your route. It's rather dangerous. But yeah, I mean, ideally I'm looking for a steady bike path.
A lot of times there's broken glass. I get flat tires from that. If you don't have a strong enough tire, you get a flat tire easily, And then the potholes, I'd say probably about 3 times I've had to change a tire.
This year?
Well, and counting last fall or so, but yeah, it's a lot.
Well, I would say that we can keep a student mechanic busy for every day, all day, just fixing flats back there. We have people who come in and they've already had 3 or 4 flats this season. And when you take the tire off, you can see that there's a nail or some kind of something that's embedded into the tire. And that can wreck the tire and the tube. So now they need to replace both. So it's definitely a deterrent. I mean, you're going to go out on your bike ride and you want to make sure that you're not going to have a repair along the way. And the gutters are bad, really bad.
What would you like to see the city do to improve the cycling conditions?
More bike roads. I don't know what you call them, the little on the side of the road. More bike roads anyway, especially along Riverside, that one section.
Come up with a better plan. I mean, I think just like what Toronto's done. I mean, bike paths are just everywhere, and I think it's happening here more and more. I can definitely see that, but. A little more would be much appreciated.
Now, CBC did ask for an interview with the city on that story, but did not hear back. A live look outside their beauty day to hop on your bicycle. Now, this sunny stretch is going to continue with temperatures getting all the way up to the 30s this week. Colette Kennedy joins us after the break with more. Stay with us. Colette Kennedy is with us now for a look at weather. Colette, this sunny streak can't stop, won't stop.
Yeah, exactly. It won't stop. It's going to keep going on here. And yes, it makes for very enjoyable weather on the weekend to be doing things, but it also poses a problem. We're seeing so many areas where we have very dry conditions, and we know about this earlier in the show, looking at the situation in Nova Scotia with the fires that are burning there. And right here, you can even pick up some of that smoke that's coming off the fires in the southwest part of the province there around Shelburne. So a couple of areas to be watching very, very carefully. A lot of time we're talking about what's going on in Halifax. And really the situation here with the winds aren't going to be very helpful over the next few days, because if I pull this through, sure, in the overnight, they tend to get a little bit lighter, and that kind of helps the firefighters in terms of not spreading the fire further. But the direction as we go through Tuesday into Wednesday, we're going to see more of that south to southwesterly flow, which is a very drying flow, and also some of these times the gusts 30 to approaching even 40 kilometers an hour. So no rain in sight here either as we look ahead till about maybe Thursday night into Friday. The chance they could have some showers there. We're not likely to be seeing that in our skies. That ridge of high pressure blocking everything. This is convective stuff that is back to the west of us, and we just have these clear, dry conditions and warm conditions too. Into northern Ontario, it's even warmer here, and heat advisories in place for the next few days through those areas. Now, the criteria is a little different in northern Ontario than it's going to be in southern Ontario, but check out Kapuskasing, 32 degrees, current temperature 30 in Sandy Lake. Pickle Lake was up to, I think, 31 a little bit earlier, and they've fallen to 29. So even that is still warmer than Windsor right now at our 28. On the outskirts here, as you get kind of a little away from the ridge, either to the east or the west, temperatures are slightly cooler, but we're kind of right in the center of it, and that's why we'll keep seeing things heating up. The outlook, again, some stuff tries to come in. It really doesn't have much luck. And so as I look ahead, our next best chance isn't until about Monday, I think, of next week. Now, that could change, but that's how it's really looking, that this ridge and this blocking pattern is going to hold in there. Overnight temperatures, this is where you can get a little bit of relief. And by the way, humidity, yeah, those humidex values are going to start pumping up a little bit too. So this is a look at what the temperatures will be like on the thermometer. But as we're getting a bit deeper in this week, we're talking about it feeling like 35 or so with that humidex value, or even a bit above. Katerina.
I've kind of been blocking out humidity for a while, and now I'm like, oh yeah, I have to brace myself for that too now. Thanks for the reminder.
You won't be able to pretty soon. Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks, Colette. When we come back, it is time for a medical checkup for a dormouse. That's coming right up. Getting a full health checkup can be daunting enough for people, but imagine being a tiny critter where a regular stethoscope is nearly as big as you. A group of rare British dormice had to undergo that before being released back into the wild next month.
During the health check, each dormouse has a 10-minute appointment with one of our expert wildlife vets. During this time, they have a full MOT, nose to tail. We check their ears, eyes, teeth, skin and fur. And we also weigh them and take some measurements. We also place a microchip so that we can track them after they're released.
UK dormouse numbers have fallen due to the loss of their habitats over the past 100 years. The British dormouse population is now mainly in southern England and Wales, which means that they're vulnerable to extinction. So for the past 30 years, we've been working to improve their population numbers and restore them back to the numbers they originally were.
Fear can trigger a tingling sensation on your skin, unless we're talking about an actual spider crawling over your hand.
So this time, a little bit slower. Actually, that was faster, sorry.
Visitors to the London Zoo got the chance to face their fears this weekend. The Friendly Spider program is designed to help a person get used to the 8-legged critter. People react differently to spiders, from being slightly scared to an almost paralyzing phobia. Participants are taught to stop fearing them and even learn to hold them in their hands. The London Zoo is celebrating 30 years of running the program. That is it for CBC Windsor News. For more, go to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. Thanks for watching and have a great night.